I started out the morning at the Bell City Rotary Club. They meet at 6:30 a.m. We had breakfast. He did his visit with that club this morning, so it's a pleasure to have him with us today. Tim is a member of the St. Peter's Rotary Club, and he's been doing an excellent job this year as district governor. And he will give you a heartwarming, very, well, let's see. How did I describe it?
Be careful which entity.
No, you're going to really enjoy his words that he has to say today. They're coming from the heart, and he is entertaining. And please welcome District Governor Tim Cudd.
I'm not much of a podium person, so if it's okay, I'm just going to stand out here a little closer. First of all, thank you for showing up even though the district governor was coming. I have heard all the stories about how long-winded they get. They never seem to say anything worth anything, present company excluded, from Jerry and Bill. I never had the opportunity to listen to your district governor presentation. It's always a little daunting when you go to a club that has a couple of past district governors sitting there because they've been there, done it, got the t-shirt. And you want to make sure you do it right. You all know Jerry well enough that if I don't do it right, I'll hear about it at some point, right? Jerry and I have been friends for a while. We talk a lot about cotton farming and rice farming and cotton sacks and the old days, whatever. A little bit about me. I want to talk a little bit about the district. I'm going to give you a couple things to take away from here today. I grew up just outside of Jonesboro, Arkansas State University, home of the GoDaddy Bowl football champions this year. Since they won, I've been telling everybody because I don't think ever in my life I've been able to say they were the champions of anything. So while I got the chance, I've been giving them their props. Grew up on a farm just outside of town. Got in, went to work at the local ambulance service. You know, in a small town, it's the ambulance service, the coroner's office, and the funeral home all in one, so it's one-stop shopping. And we go out, pick you up, pronounce you dead, and bury you all in one weekend. It worked well. My claim to fame is August the 16th of 1977. I'm one of the 4 people that unloaded Elvis out of the back of the ambulance at Baptist Hospital the day he died. Elvis is dead, deal with it. He's not coming back, he's left the building. If you don't believe me, look at it this way. When Lisa Marie married Michael Jackson, if he was alive, he'd have shown up somewhere. I'm pretty sure he'd have been there. Let's talk about the district a little bit. Things going on, foundation, etc. Every year our district sets aside $25,000, which is 25 $1,000 cap grants. They have to be matched with a minimum of $1,000 for something in your community. This year, out of 25 possible grants, we got 17 applications, which means we left $8,000 sitting on the table. We actually left $16,000 on the table because they had to be matched with a minimum of $1,000. Last year, we only got 11. This year, out of 17, one of those grants that turned out to be pretty special was 6 clubs up around the St. Charles area identified a need. There are 19,000 kids in St. Charles County on Medicaid, and there were 3 dentists taking Medicaid. So they put together a mobile dental van to go out to the elementary schools and provide free dental care to these kids in the elementary school, because you've all heard the stories about disease, heart disease, everything when you get older. So they're trying to prevent that, or provide that dental care to those students. Once we got that all put in place, when you look at it, you think, well, it took 6 clubs. I went to one of the largest clubs we have in this district. You know, our district goes from Hannibal to the Arkansas line to Steele. And I had a member of one of the largest districts, or largest clubs in the district, come up to me and ask me, is it really okay for one club to work on a project with another club? And he's been a member of Rotary over 40 years. That just tells me we haven't done a good job getting that word out. And we need to be better about it. Some of the things we've done this year, we put, you may have heard, we did a conference back in February in Sykeston, a one-day conference on a Saturday. We had a meeting up in St. Louis, had about 40 people show up there, a leadership training thing. Come in and learn what you can, what you want to learn about Rotary, have breakout sessions, etc. My job, the district's job, my job primarily is to support and provide support for the clubs. We haven't done a good job of that in the last several years. It was important to take that mini conference to Sykeston and give folks in the Boot Hill, and from here, we had one come from Arnold to Sykeston. Give them an opportunity to see and experience what a district conference is about. It's expensive to go from Sykeston to Boot Hill to St. Louis for 2 days with hotels, gas, everything that goes with it. Conference costs. So it was important for me to take it down there. We had a good turnout. We got people from Arnold to Van Buren, all around Sykeston, Paytide, those places. We fed them with a fire hose for a day. I had 1 day to do it. I didn't have time for breakout sessions and all that. We boom, 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 but we did the business session, the memorial session. We awarded folks that had awards coming down in that area. The district conference is coming up the end of this month, April 26th and 27th. Think about coming up there if you can at all, and here's why. The speaker Friday night is a fellow named Carl Chenery from Kansas City. Some of you know Carl. Carl's been around a long time Rotarian. Carl has a very personal, moving message about polio and how it affected his life as a young boy. At one point, when he was about 5 years old, I think, he and both of his brothers had polio at the same time. He lost an older brother, excuse me, and he talks about what it's like to lose his hero at that young age. He finally got his mom to sit down a few years ago in her 80s and write down all of the thoughts that she had over the years about how that changed their family, how it affected their family. He puts a face with a cause. It's a very personal message. He said a year or so ago he was never going to do it again because it was too painful. As a favor to me and as a friend of mine, he agreed to come do it at the conference. So I encourage you, if you can't come for the whole thing, think about coming up for that. Saturday, presidential rep is Dean Jackson from Utah. Saturday night, we've got a special guest. I've got Ed Puta, who is the past Rotary International General Secretary. It'll be the keynote speaker. Ed knows everything about Rotary and then some. He was the General Secretary, I think, for 11 years or something like that. He retired last year. He lives in Honolulu, but he's still, I look for Ed's name to be RI President Ed Puta sometime in the near future. He's a great guy, great sense of humor, a lot of fun to be around, always brings a different perspective to things, so I invite you to come up for that as well. Polio. I know some people are tired of hearing about polio. Why do we fight the fight? January of 2012 at the International Assembly in San Diego, they bring in all the incoming district governors from around the world. There were 534 incoming district governors and spouse partners for about a week of everything you ever wanted to know about Rotary, and a lot of things I didn't know I wanted to know about Rotary, but they tell you. I met people from 57 different countries. I didn't understand all of them. I got the gist of what they were talking about in some classes. During one of the plenary sessions on January 17th of 2012, John Germ, who heads up the polio effort for Rotary, and who was just this week recognized by the White House for his efforts through Rotary, the fight against polio, John Germ walked out on the stage in front of 2,000 people You know, Rotary had a $200 million challenge from the Gates Foundation. Gates said, we're going to give you $355 million, you raised $200 million. As of January 17th, 2012, John calmly announced that Rotary was at $206,638,000 and change. I have no idea why I remember that number, but that's the number. 2,000 people stood up and cheered. When that died down, they lowered a screen, and Dr. Bruce Aylward from the World Health Organization was there on the screen. He's the #2 guy at the WHO and Rotary's point man through the WHO for the polio eradication effort. We had 4 countries that were endemic at the time, and the acronym was PAIN: Pakistan, Afghanistan, India, and Nigeria. Dr. Aylward announced that day that India had been declared polio-free, to which 2,000 people stood up and cheered again. There's a waiting period after they're declared polio-free for it to be official. That passed this past January, so India's off the list. Now we're down to 3. The hot spot right now is Nigeria. Cases go up and down in Nigeria because the civil wars and the strife and everything going on there. It's hard to get a handle on it. After they raised the screen up, this unassuming fellow walked across the stage. Nobody really knew who he was. They introduced him as the head of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. He walked up to the podium and announced that since Rotary had met its $200 million challenge, here's another $50 million. No strings attached, nothing to match. You did a good job making your $200 million, here's another $50 million. So now Gates is in for $405 million. Last number I saw, Rotary is up a little over $250 million. I had somebody ask me not long ago, why are we still pumping money into polio? And the short answer is, polio is a plane ride away. How many flights do you think come in this country on a daily basis from Pakistan, Afghanistan, Nigeria, India, wherever? When they started this effort in 1985, they were getting something like 16,000 new cases a day reported worldwide. So far this year, up through April the 4th, they've had 11. Last year, it was about 800 all year long. Wouldn't it be great if we could keep it to less than 100 cases this year? We're on the right track at 11 in the first quarter. We'll see. That's why we keep putting the money into polio. One of the things that you see at this International Assembly, you meet people from around the world, and I sat in a class with a fellow the class was how to increase your public image. How do you get the word out about Rotary in your community? Everybody from the US, the UK, all these places were like, it's simple. You call the local newspaper publisher, the magazine editor, whoever. Everybody loves Rotary, right? They'll put it in the paper, they'll take care of it. This fella kind of raised his hand a little slowly, sheepishly, and his point was, Croatia is a democratic society, but it still has a state-run media. I can't call the newspaper publisher, the magazine editor, the television producer, whoever. They could care less about Rotary. They don't know anything about it, really. After that class, on a non-sponsored Rotary trip, 3 Rotarians from the United Kingdom that were in the journalism business went to Croatia. They spent 3 weeks over there working with the media in Croatia in an attempt to kind of educate them on what free press really is. Baby steps. When they came back, 2 or 3 journalists from Croatia went back to the UK. They stayed about 3 weeks, went home. The last I saw, I'm still on these email lists from folks in that class from all around the world. It's not a perfect system, but now when they need something in the paper or in the media for an event, he knows who to call. It's not perfect. The government wouldn't take care of it. Rotary took care of it. You may have seen recently in the news that the Taliban had banned all eradication or immunization teams out of certain parts of Pakistan until the drone strike stopped. The politics of the whole thing. You may have seen within the last couple of months that the Taliban kidnapped 5 immunization workers and executed them. Those folks, from what I understand, worked for the World Health Organization. They weren't part of a Rotary team. You may have also seen that they kidnapped another dozen and took a ransom and let them go. You may have also seen that about a month ago, after they were told to stay out of those tribal regions, Rotary put an announcement out that a certain tribal area of Pakistan that had been off limits had now been completely immunized. Somebody with the Rotary effort went into that area, even though they had kidnapped and executed people. Some folks still went in there and got it done. The governments wouldn't do it. Rotary took care of it. I sat in a class with one fellow from Germany. His name's Helmut. Good German name, right, Brigitte? And by the way, I can't imagine a party at your house without beer. So, anyway, but I digress. Helmut was a great guy, great sense of humor, a lot of fun to be around. The comments were, they were talking about in Russia, along a certain part of the Russian border, there was an outbreak of tuberculosis. The Russians didn't want it to turn into an epidemic, and the Germans didn't want it sliding down into their country either. For some reason, Germans and the Russians still don't like each other. They don't talk. When they went back, the Russian Rotarians and the German Rotarians put together a medical mission team and started working across the border. The last I read was, not perfect, the Russians are no longer worried about it being an epidemic, and the Germans are no longer worried about it really coming down and turning into an epidemic in their country. Once again, the governments wouldn't do it. Rotary took care of it. That's when you see how truly international this organization is. We can sit in our communities and we do great things in our communities. And I have people all the time saying, we have these needs in our backyard. I agree, and we need to take care of those needs as best we can. But it's also called Rotary International. People ask me, why are we putting money in water wells in India, Africa, and those places? I read recently somebody made a comment that the next great war will be fought over clean drinking water. I don't know, sounds reasonable to me. But we do what we can with what we've got to help the people that we know need it the most. What we do in our community is important. We don't need to forget people on the other side of the world, and I'll give you an example. As a club secretary in St. Peter's back in the early 2000s, our club worked on a project with a club in Bangalore, India, to put 2 libraries in for school kids. I worked with a fellow named Venu. His real name was about this long, but it's Venu. I swapped emails with him all these years after the project. When they got finished with these libraries, if you've ever seen anything dedicated in India, if you look at the pictures and the videos that I got, it's amazing. All the high priests come out, all the pomp, circumstance, they bless everything, all the dancers, it's a huge party for a couple of days. And then scrolling through the pictures that Venu sent me, one picture popped up on my computer, and it was a bronze plaque on the side of one of the buildings, and it said, special thank you to the Rotary Club of St. Peters, Missouri, USA, Club 2343, for helping make this library project possible. And it listed the club officers, club secretary, and there's my name. That was my Rotary aha moment. That's when it dawned on me what little I did, and I didn't do much. I shuffled papers as a club secretary. But it made a difference to somebody on the other side of the world. My name is on a plaque on the side of a building in a small community, the other side of the world, in a place I'll probably never visit. I can't spell, I can't hardly find it on the map. but it'll be there until that building comes down. Remember that mobile dental van that I talked about a while ago? Bennu heard about it through some email. His club sent $1,000 all these years later, just because they wanted to help. I remember on that project, and when we get into this, our club, they wanted to have a video conference call. Our club has 33, 34 members. We were in an office at 7:30 in the morning with everybody complaining and belly aching because it's 7:30 in the morning and we're over here and it's too early and we didn't bring the coffee and whatever. When we hooked up the video link to Bangalore, India, Bennu's club has 32 people. 28 of them were sitting in front of the camera, smiling at 3:30 in the morning their time, and tickled to death to be there. Last summer, I was fortunate enough to go to the International Convention in Bangkok, Thailand. One evening, I got to sit down in the hotel lobby and have a beer and talk about Rotary and projects and things that our club had done together. We're also get that kind of opportunity. All these years, I've kept in touch with them, and it was fun to sit down and finally put a face to the name. So always remember what little you do in your community, you never know when it's going to come back. Pay it forward now, see what happens later. Why did you join Rotary, and why are you still here? Everybody's got their own reasons. Why did you join? Anybody can join a Rotary Club now. They don't have classifications anymore. You can't have only 5 of this and 1 of those and 3 of those and whatever. You want to be a Rotarian? Fill out an application. Apparently, it's really hard to get into this club, from what I hear. You know, but I guess eventually it happens. So that's a good thing. Why did you join and why are you here? You need to think about that. Are you a thinker or are you a doer? Are you the person that thinks up the projects? Or are you a doer? Are you the person that says, you think of it, I'll go make it happen? Who's the president-elect? You're the president. That's right. June 15th is the deadline to get the CAP grant applications in. I think making sure everybody knows. They moved it up so you can do projects in the warm weather. I tell folks, if you've ever tried to plant a tree in front of a Habitat for Humanity home in St. Louis in November with a pickaxe, you understand why they moved that date up. I'll never do it again without a backhoe or something that goes with it. Think or doer, or you both. A friend of mine, he's both. You call him with a problem, by the time you hang up the phone, he's got 3 bullet points and 2 phone numbers written down, and he's going to make it happen, one way or the other. One of the hardest jobs of a club president is figuring out who is what, who to plug into certain positions to make it run smooth. It takes both in every club. Are you a lifter or are you a leaner? Are you the person that lifts everybody up around you? Or you just lean on everybody else to get it done? Figure out which one you are. I found a poem called Lifters and Leaners. I want to read to you that explains it a lot better than I can. And it goes like this. There are just 2 kinds of people on earth today. There are just 2 kinds of people on earth today. Just 2 kinds of people, no more I say. Not the rich and the poor, for to count a man's wealth, you must first know the state of his conscience and health. Not the humble and proud, for in life's little span, who puts on airs is not counted a man. Not the happy and sad, for the swift counting years bring each man his laughter and each man his tears. No, the 2 kinds of people on earth, I mean, are the people who lift and the people who lean. Wherever you go, you'll find the world's masses are always divided in just these 2 classes. And oddly enough, you'll find 2, I ween, there's only 1 lifter, 20 who lean. In which class are you? Are you easing the load of overtaxed lifters who toil down the road? Or are you a leaner who lets others bear your portion of labor and worry and care? Which one are you? Are you a doer thinker? Are you a lifter leaner? One of the questions that they asked me in one of the classes was, what do you stand for and where's it come from? That's a tough question. I look at you, Jerry, and I say, what do you stand for and where does it come from? I had to think about it. I sat in the back of the room like a good student, ducked my head and went, please God, don't call on me because I have no idea. I had no idea. When I thought about it, I came up with hard work and taking responsibility. It's hard to find people nowadays to take responsibility, isn't it? Look at the political process. Look at television any night of the week. It wasn't my idea. I wasn't there. Not my area of responsibility. Not my fault. Had nothing to do with it. Somebody else did it. Wouldn't you love to see some guy sit on Dr. Phil one afternoon and go, it's not my mom's fault, it's not my dad's fault, it's not society's fault. I'm just an idiot. But take responsibility for it. Where did it come from? It came from a little lady named Edie Mae Watkins, who was the hardest working farm wife I'll ever know. She raised 7 kids, tended an 1.5 acre garden, chopped cotton, picked cotton, canned everything that they ate, participated in the community hog killings in the winter, ground sausage in the outside, cooked it over an open fire, cured her own hams, did all the things with it. Chewed tobacco, dipped snuff. You never had to worry what was on her mind because you knew pretty quick. I called her Granny because she was my grandmother. She raised me. There's not a day goes by that I don't think about it. I tell people if I had 5 minutes, I just want to sit down and ask her how I'm doing. I'm sure she probably thumped me in the back of the head and had something to say. But that's okay. She taught me hard work and taking responsibility. I used to have to take her to the Safeway grocery store every couple of weeks. And back then, some of you will remember, I had to unload, I have to lose this thing. I had to unload all the 25-pound bags of flour off the shelf and lay them in the aisle. So she could pick which material she wanted to make her aprons or bonnets or shirts or whatever. And when I thought about it years later, I'm pretty sure she always picked the first one. And I think there was a lesson in there. I'm going to make you take these 20. I'm going to take this one, but you don't know it yet. And then you can put these 19 back in there. Every couple of weeks, same drill, different material. She always had nice bonnets and aprons and everything that she made out of those sacks. I just wish I had 5 minutes to ask her how to do it. Are you a member of this Rotary Club, or are you a Rotarian? Are you the person that comes in here once a week and has lunch and says hi to all your friends? Have a nice time, nice visit. You walk out the door, put that bag back in the box. You got a pin on, take it off, put it in the ashtray, the glove box, the nightstand, dresser, whatever, and the next week before you come to the meeting, you start trying to find that pin. My club, if you don't have a pin on it, costs you $1. You start scrambling for that pin, so you might pay $1. Or are you a Rotarian? Do you get involved in the club? Do you help others in the club? Do you help others in the community? There's a reason that you're still here after however long it's been. And congratulations on the 2 folks that are coming here. It's a great experience. I don't say that because I'm standing up here. I say that because that's what caused me to stand up here. I'm not saying you have to drink the Rotary Kool-Aid, but I'm saying that you should be sharing the Rotary story with people in your community. Everybody in this room knows somebody that would love to be a part of an organization like Rotary and give back just a little. Wouldn't it be a shame not to extend that same invitation just like somebody invited you at some point in the past? You all didn't just walk in the door and all of a sudden say, hey, there's a Rotary meeting, I think I'll join. Somebody invited you, you saw it somewhere, you inquired about it. There's a way you got here besides just walking in the front door and doing it by accident. Go out and invite people to share the same experience with you. Give them an opportunity to pay back a little bit, pay forward. Not everybody's going to hang around. But it's a shame not to ask those people and give them the same opportunity that somebody gave you in the past. So think about these things. Are you a thinker doer? Are you a lifter leaner? More importantly, are you a member of this club, or are you a Rotarian? All right? Okay, thank you.